Hello and welcome to Kingston Now. I'm Jimmy Buff. Recently there was a public meeting at City Hall called Kingston 2025. The meeting was the first step in creating a comprehensive plan for the city of Kingston's future. Normally comprehensive plans are done every 10 to 15 years, but Kingston hasn't had one since 1961 and the time was right for a new one. The evening began with some opening remarks from Kingston Mayor Shayne Gallo and others. Let's take a listen.
I want to thank all of you for attending tonight. This is really very great to see the response, and we're very pleased also with the response that we got from our survey. Without this kind of public participation, then this study and the revision of the comprehensive plan is useless. I want to thank Mr. Noble, Sue Cahill, Mr. Schuster, for organizing this event, and once again your participation. And just some quick thoughts. I had already spoken to Jimmy and Sue, and I'll reiterate this after I sit down with Mr. Schuster. In 1 year of being in office, all of what you're dealing with right now, I have quite a bit of experience with. In other words, the issues you're going to be facing with respect to historical districts, zoning overlays, tax districts and the consequences of different kinds of economic development, all of that I've experienced in 1 year in office. So I'd ask you, as you're going through your analysis and review, and when you consider, for instance, Uptown Kingston, take into account the historical stockade district and the fact that the American Planning Association, as probably many of you, if not all, know, we received a national award for being one of the best, greatest streetscapes in the United States. I'd ask you to take into account the setting from the Old Dutch Church to the Senate House, the overall stockade district. I'd ask you to also consider the fact that the parking garage, we're currently going to put an RFP out for its development. So that's the Uptown area with a little flavor. There's also issues of signage. There's issues of parking. You go to Midtown, where we have UPAC and we have 721. We have an arts, business, digital corridor. I'm in the process of hopefully, and I'm looking very hopeful, that we will be able to put a police station at the Bank of America. We now have title to the building, and we're going to be taking some other steps to facilitate it to that end. But what you have in Midtown is the potential for major revitalization. We intend to undertake an ambitious effort to help with the infrastructure of the sidewalks and the exterior fasciating of all of those businesses there. And we're coming up with some ideas, Jen Fuentes and I, that we're going to present to the KLDC, the Kingston Loan Development Corporation, for grants to that end, to facilitate that kind of economic revitalization along that corridor. You go down to downtown, it's pretty much of a no-brainer, too, with what's going on down there. You have a plethora, the entire promenade area, which is across from Mr. Guido's restaurant, Mariners, is essentially this lovely promenade that goes past or behind a number of our museums. And now the Clearwater is there as well, okay, where they dry dock for the winter and make repairs on their boat. So what am I trying to say? I'm asking you respectfully that when you go about your analysis and your review, you take into account that there are 3 districts in Kingston which make up, in the totality, one great, beautiful city with assets that need to be reviewed, inventoried, and then taken into account how we can develop those respective areas, how we can use this comprehensive plan as a blueprint, okay, which facilitates more money, be it from the federal or state government, like we did with the waterfront revitalization plan back in the mid-90s, I believe, when my brother T.R. was mayor at that time, with the help of people like Abel Garrigan and then Steve Finkel and all the downtown business people. So I've said enough. As you know, I got to get out to the college for Mr. Hines' State of the County, which he's going to announce various initiatives that the city and the county are working on in partnership together. Again, I want to thank you. I want to really thank you again for your participation and the work of Mr. Noble, okay, and Sue, and Mr. Schuster and his associates. And with that in mind, get to work.
You're watching Kingston Now. Next, we'll talk with Suzanne Cahill, the City of Kingston's planning director and one of the people behind Kingston 2025. Welcome back to Kingston Now. This week we're talking about Kingston 2025, the first comprehensive plan for the city in over 50 years. Here is Suzanne Cahill, the city's planning director. We're with Suzanne Cahill, the planning director for the city of Kingston, and Kingston 2025 seems like a long time from now, seems almost like a Jetsons future, but it's only a dozen years from now. When did the idea for the comprehensive planning commission or process begin?
The idea came about actually quite a few years ago, but it's been difficult to obtain the financing. Once we had the buy-in from the legislative level of city government, we were able to get a bond in place, which allowed us then to go out to bid for a consulting firm to move it forward. The Kingston 2025 logo is not that it's going to take us that long. Our vision is that it's going to take us 2 years to get to a completion process, but our goal is to plan for the next 10 years virtually at the end of the first 2, and then hopefully reinvigorate it again. The last comprehensive plan was completed by the city of Kingston in the early 60s. So it's been over 50 years since a full look has been done to a comprehensive plan. There have been components of it which have been accomplished through a variety of different grants and programs, but this allows us now to just take a look at our future, and bringing the public in this evening is an important part of having that input and those comments and opinions involved in the process.
So what is happening tonight in this room?
Tonight it's our first public participation meeting, and what we've done is we've organized it in group breakout sessions. And they are, I think, very valuable because it puts people in a smaller group, making them a little bit more comfortable, as opposed to speaking in front of 200 people. There might be speaking, and interacting with a group of 10 individuals, and they can say what they feel, what their opinions are, what their ideas are, what they feel are good things, what they feel are bad things. We're using what we call a SWOT analysis, which is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So each group is going to go through each of those categories and try and define how they feel. What are the elements of each of those?
I noticed each table also has a facilitator for the breakout groups. Where do the facilitators come from, and what's their job here tonight?
The facilitators are members of our comprehensive plan committee. We have a steering committee that's been established. They're members of the community. We have 2 liaisons from the Common Council. Our Alderman at Large, Jim Noble, is the chairman of that committee. We also have several advisory members that are part of that group, such as the Water Department Superintendent, the Superintendent of DPW, the Parks and Recreation Department Superintendent, our City Bus Director. So we have a large group to cull from and bring together. So they have all volunteered. They come together and they're bringing their ideas, and they're reaching out to, they were chosen to be on the committee because they come from a variety of backgrounds, and so they are able to do outreach that we felt was critical to the success of the process.
Will they be guiding that SWOT initiative that you're talking about at the table?
Yes, that's their role this evening, is to work. It's not their role to impose their own ideas or initiatives, but really to get the dialogue going, ask the questions, and pull the information from individuals. If someone's not comfortable, they may ask them for a little bit more detail. It's an interesting process, and I think, the turnout tonight has been, relatively good. I'm really happy with the turnout.
It is a good turnout. How did you get the word out to people and get them here tonight?
We did it in multiple ways. We had flyers that were distributed to multiple organizations, all the business organizations, the Chamber of Commerce, special interest groups like Friends of Historic Kingston. Every agency in the city of Kingston got them. The libraries have gotten them. We sent them to the BRC. We've walked the streets and handed them out, And we also did a press release, so there has been media coverage on this in a couple of different venues. And we have the mayor, who has been very proactive, and I thank him very much for that, because he's gone on the radio on a weekly basis and he's talked this process up. So that's a plus. And we have a website that we've established. So if anybody wants to go to that, they can certainly feel free. That's where you can access the survey. There is a QR code there, so you can just click on it and you're good to go.
This is Kingston Now. Next, we talk to Alderman-at-Large James Noble, another proponent of Kingston 2025. You're watching Kingston Now. Let's check in with James Noble, Alderman-at-Large for Kingston. We're with James Noble, the Alderman-at-Large for the city of Kingston. And Mr. Noble, what's happening here tonight?
This evening is like a public forum meeting to get some ideas from the residents of the city of Kingston for the comprehensive plan that we're undertaking right now. We started it probably in May. We hired a consultant to help us out and everything. It was a little difficult in the beginning because we weren't sure. I've always heard that it would be very expensive, like $450,000 to do a comprehensive plan. And of course, what do you want, your trash picked up, or do you want a comprehensive plan? So I researched it and found out that we could possibly, we sent some flyers out and, just off the cuff type of bids, they came all around $100,000. And then it was a possibility, like, where do we get $100,000? We found out that we could bond for it, so it kind of made it possible to do. So we bonded the $100,000. We had probably 8 consultants, send us resumes. We had interviews. We established a committee, picked the consultant to, Schuster and Turner. We've been very happy with them. And now it started probably by the time they got the contract signed, May. So it's been a 2-year, it's going to be a 2-year project. So this is like doing the needs assessment right now. We're trying to get all the data that we possibly can collect. Prior to the meeting this evening, we reviewed 23 past documents of plans that had been done for the waterfront, traffic, other issues, the original plan, the Rockefeller plan, and we've taken out all the highlights of those plans. We interviewed all the department heads and got their intake on what they'd like to see in the city. And then we're online with a survey right now, which is still going on, and there's hard copies available, and we're trying to get it translated into Spanish for the Spanish-speaking population. So we're trying to be all-inclusive. When we did the committee originally, I appointed people from all different aspects of the city. There's somebody from education, somebody from real estate, so we tried to diversify as much as we could to get all the different, ideas at the table. So this is the public part of it.
The last comprehensive plan was done almost 50 years ago?
I believe it was 1960, actually, so it would be over 50 years.
Did you go back and look at that plan, and did you see what was implemented from that and how it affects Kingston today?
Well, actually, when I looked at it, it seemed like if it was upgraded, it would have been a better plan, but it never was upgraded. And as things changed rather quickly with, the shopping area of the city kind of moving to the mall, IBM going out, we had a lot of, cement plants shut down, the brickyard shut down, no more commercial activity at the roundabout, no more freight trains. no more needle trade business. So we lost a lot of commercial, base of the city. So, it's kind of was changing, and we lost population. So it didn't really follow a lot of that. They were more, expanding out was already existing, which it turned like a big right turn. So now we're in the process of formulating the new plan of the current, status of the city and trying to plan for the future. But we've picked a date, 2025, so at least by 2025, we hope that who's ever in office at the time will pick up that plan, look at it, and do a new revised version of it.
This is the first step in the process tonight. It's a nice turnout. Are you excited to get the process going?
Yes, I am. Like I said, we've been doing other things in the process, like interviews and going through the historical data and having our survey online. We're pretty proud of just being able to get that online, being able that if you went to the Kingston website, there's links to go on to the comprehensive plan. And even if you don't want to do the 60 questions, we had to come up with 60 questions. So we've been involved setting all that up ahead of time. But you can just do a comment. If you couldn't make it this evening, we'd appreciate you just going online and just doing a comment of what you feel, the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, whatever. Just put it in there, and that'll help us. This is Kingston Now. Next, we'll hear from Dan Schuster of Schuster Associates, the consulting firm hired to help the city with Kingston 2025. Welcome back to Kingston Now. Let's meet Dan Schuster of Schuster Associates, the consulting firm hired to help the city with Kingston 2025. We're with Daniel Schuster of Schuster Associates. And Dan, what does your company do?
We do planning and zoning, consulting, environmental reviews for both public agencies and private developers.
So how did you get involved with the Kingston 2025 comprehensive plan?
Well, I've been a consultant to Kingston off and on for over 40 years. And we submitted a proposal. I was very much interested in being involved in the new plan. We submitted a proposal, and we put together a team of 3 other consulting firms, and we were selected by the committee after an interview.
What goes into putting a comprehensive plan together?
Well, it's a pretty broad assignment. It involves doing a lot of research in terms of what's gone on in the past. One of the first things we did was to review 50 years worth of planning activity in the city, because it's that long since it did its last comprehensive plan. We're evaluating existing conditions. We're trying to get the input of the citizens, such as what's taking place tonight at this session. And the end of this first stage will be to try and create a vision for the city, which will then be pursued to establish the comprehensive plan in more detail.
When a municipality is putting together a comprehensive plan, what are some of the things that they generally look at?
Well, they look at the entire complex of activities that makes a community a community. It's both the physical features of the community, the social fabric, the interaction of residents in their neighborhood, the economic climate. Some plans focus more on some aspects than others, but it can be very broad and encompassing.
How many other cities and towns have you done this for?
25 or 30, I've lost count.
And when a comprehensive plan is finally delivered after, I think, 6 or 7 different stages along the way, tonight being the first step in that process, how often do those cities and towns put into play what comes out of the comprehensive plan?
Well, if the plan is done with the full participation of the residents and the decision makers, it happens quite, and it can happen that most of the recommendations will be taken up. Not immediately. Some recommendations are for short-term action, others are long-term, but it has to be pursued, but you can accomplish a great deal.
Tonight is the first public participation in the process. What happens next?
Well, we're now going to develop, based on this and the work we've done already in this first phase, both a needs analysis and a vision statement, which will basically guide the remainder of the program. We'll be able to focus on those issues which the citizens deem most important and which we believe warrant the most attention. So it will refine the scope of work somewhat.
Does it excite you when you come into a place like Kingston and you look around and you say, oh yeah, there's a lot of possibility here, let's get this thing going?
Absolutely. Kingston's one of my favorite places. I've been coming to Kingston, as I said, for off and on for 50 years. I live 10 miles away, so I spend a lot of time here.
That's it for this week's show. Thanks to Mayor Gallo, Suzanne Cahill, James Noble, and Dan Schuster. To find out more about Kingston 2025, go to kingston-ny.gov. Remember, all of our shows are now archived on our YouTube channel, and you can find that link on our Facebook page. You can also suggest topics for future shows on Facebook. For Kingston Now, I'm Jimmy Buff. We'll see you next time.